You're listening to the Focused and Fearless podcast. I'm your host, Heather Angel, and I've been helping people tune into what lights them up and increase their personal and professional performance for over a decade. Now I'm best known as a high-performance coach helping entrepreneurs like you cut through the noise and create a business and life on your terms. If you're ready to step out of struggle and discover how simple it can be to create a fulfilling, joyful, and successful business without all the overwhelm and long hours, you're in the right place.
Hey, beautiful. In today's episode, I am joined by my friend Jacy, and she is from Virtually Accomplished, and she is going to share all the wisdom about Instagram right now. So what is working right now, what isn't, the tactics to be avoiding, the things that are working to help not only grow your audience, because you know my view on this, followers are vanity metrics. That is not necessarily where you want to be focusing your attention, but actually growing your business on Instagram. That's where it's at, because as we talk about in this episode, the best metric to measure is money in the bank, not followers. So this is a really honest, open conversation about Instagram, and I can't wait for you to dive into it, and do take some notes as well. We talk about Reels quite a lot because I know that is working really well on Instagram at the moment. I have still yet to do it. I'm not a lover of the Reels, but they do work so well to actually grow your audience, which can then help obviously grow your business. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But I do want to let you know, in case you didn't hear last week's episode, this will be the last fresh new content for a few weeks. I'm having some surgery and it's going to take a few weeks for me to recover. So I've actually decided to completely step back from everything, which I can tell you is completely out of my comfort zone. I have not done that since the day I started my business 6-7 years ago. So very weird feeling, but I am actually going to completely step back, practice what I preach, and focus 100% on healing from the surgery so that I can come back stronger and better than ever. So that is what I'll be doing, but there will still be an episode for you to listen to every Mondays. What I'm going to be doing is going through the beautiful archives of all the interviews that I have done with such good business owners who have shared their industry expertise. So I am going to do a few encore episodes, and they'll be coming out every Monday. So if you haven't listened to some of the past episodes, you'll get a second chance to listen to them as I'll be sharing them over the next few weeks. But I will be back. I will definitely be back with fresh content, new perspective. There's lots of changes happening in my business, which is really exciting, which is obviously going to filter through into what we talk about on the podcast. So I'm really excited already. I just need to get over this surgery thing, heal from that, come back fit and well, and then we can dive into all the new content I have planned for you. All right, my gorgeous one, let's dive into today's episode, and I will speak to you all very soon. Jacy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Hello.
I'm so happy that we're talking about this, because my gosh, Instagram is a big old topic. It's changing. The advice is conflicting from all corners of the internet. So before we dive in, if you could let the audience know who you are and how you help people with Instagram, that would be great.
I will do. Thank you. Thank you for having me as well. I'm really pleased to be invited on. So I'm Jacy Ellenico of Virtually Accomplished, and I'm an Instagram strategist and a social media manager. So I help people develop a strategy for Instagram, but I also actually do done for you services as well. So I will support them with that. I'm a little bit different in terms of I don't have a strong marketing background. I've come from a grassroots approach. So I know how it works. I've built my following organically, and I just really enjoy it. And I've learned an awful lot about it over the past year or so. So that's where I am with it.
And I've loved watching your account grow. Actually, I have absolutely loved it, because going from, you know, sort of when we first met, you were helping business owners with so many different things. And you were so good with Instagram, and I just saw it grow and grow and grow. And the advice and tips that you give, I have saved so many of your posts that I'm like, right, must read that. So I'm genuinely thrilled to have you on the podcast, because I know that the information you're going to give, you have a real no BS approach to Instagram. There's no fluff and nonsense. Like you know what works, and like you said, you've built this organically, and you've done it in a way that has actually really strengthened your business and taken your business to a whole other level. So let's dive into all the juiciness. So I suppose the biggest question that people are asking is, how do they actually grow their business using Instagram?
It's a great question. I mean, obviously things have changed really over the last 6 months with the introduction of Reels, and Reels are really being pushed. So if you're in a growth phase of your business, then definitely you should be looking at Reels. There are a lot of people that are against them because they feel like they have to show up and sing and dance, but you don't really. There are lots of other ways that you can use them. But at the moment, I mean, we've discussed this before. I don't believe everything's about growth. It definitely depends on having a really engaged audience. But if growth was your thing, Reels is what you're going to want to jump on.
And I think actually you hit on a really good point there, and we'll talk about Reels in more depth in a sec, but because I've definitely got my own opinions on them as well. But it's really interesting you sort of honed in there on what people maybe mean by growth, because for me as a business owner, when I think about growing my business, I think about growing the money in my bank, my client base, like real business metrics. I'm not really thinking about growing my following because again, we've had this discussion before, that's not my focus. But I suppose looking at, if people are looking at growing their following, say, so if that's actually their focus, is that where Reels, I mean, I'm interested to know when we're looking at actually growing a business and growing our Instagram following, almost, I don't know, two different things?
Yeah, definitely. I think the best metric is money in the bank, and that is something that I quote quite a lot from another Instagram person, and it is really important because followers don't equal money in the bank at all, and you really do need an engaged audience. I had somebody recently come to me and they had a very small account and they said they'd like to get to 10,000 followers. I said, I can't work with you on that basis because I'm more interested in getting you sales, more interested in growing your business and you actually having a success from it, because the followers won't equal people buying from you. You have to engage them, you have to be able to sell your things, your product, and you have to be able to have a strategy behind it before it's going to work for you, because accounts can grow based on Reels, and they do a lot of the time, but unless they're useful followers or they're a useful and you're actually selling something, then essentially you're more of an influencer than a business. So you've kind of got to feel like what is behind your goals for Instagram.
Absolutely. And I think, I've had this conversation with many clients before that, there are loads of influencers out there with hundreds of thousands of followers and they're broke, absolutely only broke. They can't sell anything, and it's not about that. Yes, it's lovely, it is lovely to have that little blue tick or have the hundreds of thousands, but unless you are actually making money, that is not growing your business. That is growing your Instagram following, which is a completely different kettle of fish.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got to remember that obviously me more so, but the majority of people on Instagram aren't Instagram businesses. They have to focus and align their goals with the whole of their marketing rather than it just being about Instagram. And I've made a business from Instagram and I love it. I know a lot about it. I really enjoy it, and you can build your business on it. However, there does have to be other foundations in place, and followers is not something that you really need to worry about at any kind of stage, really.
Amen to that. And I really want to, you mentioned it a few times, I really want to dive into goals and strategy, and I know we are going to cover that, but if we can just circle back to Reels.
Yeah, of course.
So as you know, when Reels first came out, I had a little bit of a hissy fit on Instagram because I just was like, what the heck is going on? I felt like it put back women's rights about 50 years. I was like, all I saw were these amazing female entrepreneurs all of a sudden dancing around looking like they didn't want to be there, didn't want to do that, and looked really quite awkward, pointing at words on a screen. And then when I saw the few male entrepreneurs that I follow on it, they were using it very strategically, like a video. It was almost like an IGTV that just happened to have like, it was just really short.
Yeah.
And so I had a whole like, what on earth is going on? I didn't get it.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I went, nah, I'm not going there. Although I am coming around to the idea of reels, because I do see how it is very, very beneficial. But please explain to me and the audience, how is the best way? Because your reels are amazing. So how is the best way to use reels if you are not, as you say, an Instagram business? If you have a business, how is the best way to use reels to actually help get your message out there and grow your business?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say that I absolutely agree with you. And when I first saw reels, I was like, well, there's no chance. I've got a teenage daughter. I'm thinking this is more her style, like TikTok type of thing. And you're not going to get me pointing. And I mean, obviously you've seen my page. I do it all now. I do all the memes and everything, and I really enjoy it. It's a little bit of fun. But in my situation, if I hadn't have adopted it, then it would have been a bit daft, really, because obviously it's my niche. So I kind of need to get involved in it, and I do enjoy it now, so my opinion has definitely changed. But people who I see doing it well are like Lisa Johnson, strategist. If you look at her reels, she's talking to the camera. She gives you 3 reasons. I think that is her thing right now, where she'll give you 3 reasons of this, 3 reasons of that. She's talking directly to the camera. It's just a short video. It's really helpful, and it's straight to the point. So the ones where you're miming to the music and things like that, they're funny and they can be really helpful. But if you're wanting to use it strategically for your business, look at people like that, because they're doing it really well. People in my niche are doing it slightly differently, because they're testing lots of different things as well, seeing what's working and seeing what's not. So you've got to find something that works for you. And my clients, a lot of them don't want to do it either, and I completely understand that. So I would make them things on Canva, like a video on Canva, like filming of the screen and things like that, so that they don't have to show their faces, because it isn't for everybody. But there are ways around it, because video content is going to be the way forward. If you're not going to adopt it, you're not going to be going forward, unfortunately. So you need to be thinking about video content, really.
And I think that's a really interesting point you make. And I know on your grid, and you've got so many sort of how-to videos and sort of helping people how to actually get their heads around reels and how to even use them, because I think that is a really important point, because we see there's so many reels that I love by people who I see, and they just entertain me. They just purely entertain me. I'm never going to buy from them, which I think is the interesting point, isn't it? It's like, I'm not on TikTok because I'm 38. So I'm just like, I don't need that in my life. But what I do find really interesting is I understand the appeal of TikTok now that Reels has come on, because there are some, there's some really funny people out there who, are in the sort of spiritual space or personal development space that are doing great things, and I'm sure I've seen their followings just skyrocket. But again, I'm like, I wonder how that's converting on the back end from a business point of view. But I think it's a really great idea that you can do videos. Like, I never think about that. The fact that you can create things on Canva, that's really interesting.
Yeah, there's so many things on Canva that you can do, but even there's a template for a Reels video. It's quick and simple, and there's lots of different apps that you can use as well, which I could go into a later date. But there's things where you could just do like pictures of yourself, and it's almost like it's thrown down pictures of yourself, like how your business has developed, like almost telling a story rather than it being anything like you're going to sort of jumping about. I'm not going to be doing any jumping about. I do a little bit of pointing, and I do a little bit of the memes, and I like it, but I'm not doing any jumping or dancing. My kids would never forgive me.
I know. The only time that's ever going to happen is if someone records me after I've had one too many drinks, and I'm like, oh, I am dancing on Reels apparently. It's the only time that is going to happen. Definitely not our choice. So Reels is definitely working. It's clear that really does seem like something all of us, and I'm saying this to myself as well, that we need to get on board with that and find a way that it works for our particular businesses.
Yeah, the Reel shelf life is a lot longer than a static post. So within the feed, your Reel could show up weeks later. whereas a static post is sort of like maybe 24 to 48 hours within someone's feed. And also reels can go viral a couple of weeks later as well, so that is something to consider. I don't encourage people to want to go viral, because you'll have an influx of followers that aren't going to be your ideal client, generally speaking. I think having a nice lot of views, because if you can compare your views to your impressions, they are going to be different, and you're going to get more reach on a reel, and you have the ability for people to see it later. So if you're giving out genuinely good business information, then it is something that you want people to see, and they're going to value that. Then they're going to look at your page, and then they're going to take that consideration whether to follow you or not. But it is generally based on your page as well. They won't just come to you and follow you based on one reel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we're going to sort of discuss what's working now and what's not, because Instagram has changed quite a lot. It's always changing, gives me whiplash trying to keep up with it. But
I know.
In terms of reels, is there something you suggest to your clients and how frequently to do a reel? Is there any sort of golden standard?
If you listen to Instagram, I mean, they would love for you to be doing it sort of 2 or 3 times a week. I don't recommend that. I think if you were just starting out, just try a couple and see how you get on, and just sort of have a little bit of fun with it, because I think Instagram can be taken a little bit seriously, and it is meant to be a little bit of fun. I know we are there for our businesses as well, but it is a little bit of fun. We are sort of, the video sides are almost to have a little bit of a joke at some situations. So yeah, just see what works for you, have a little look through and see if there's anything that you like and that you can replicate within your own niche. What I tend to advise is that not looking in your own niche, because you can then think, oh, I like that idea, and then you can't steer away from it. So look at something completely different to your own niche, and then see how they're getting something to work, and see how you can replicate that for yours.
I love that idea. Yeah, that's really great, because otherwise you do end up, I mean, I've seen it, you just get everyone doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think that's a great idea. And with the introduction of reels, I know it wasn't on our list of things we were going to chat about, but I'm curious, where has that put stories? Is there still as much of a relevance of stories now with the introduction of reels?
Oh yeah, 100%. So stories are for warming up your present audience, and they should definitely not be neglected. So they wouldn't be for outreach for new potential clients or new followers. They would be for warming up your current audience. And you should be using trying to use the available polls and stickers that you can, because that brings your story to the front. But yeah, it's definitely about nurturing, which is where you're going to get the conversions, because your current followers are your warm audience. So ideally you want to be talking in stories as much as you can, and trying to convert. And this is where the sales happen, in my opinion. This is where you get people in the conversations, you make conversation, and that's where the conversions happen. So no, stories aren't dead. You need to be on stories, definitely.
Yeah. Do you know, I find that really interesting, because the clients I have got from Instagram have always come through stories.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Always. It's really interesting. You know, they'll be following for a little while, and we might not have ever had a conversation in the DMs, and they'll see a story, and then we'll chat about something, or they'll be like, blah, blah, blah. And it'll be something completely irrelevant. I usually just talk about fitness and coffee. I mean, that's pretty much my life. work, coffee in the gym. But, you know, we would strike up a conversation about something, and it might not be instant, but that's ultimately how that starts that client relationship. So I think that's a really great, I've never really heard anyone define it like that. The reels is a great way of outreach and getting your new followers. Stories is a great way of nurturing your existing followers.
Yeah, and it all just depends on what phase your business is in, because you could be in launch mode, which is obviously then it depends on what you're launching, but your engaged audience are who you're going to be wanting to reach out to. You're going to want people on your email list, so you need to get them down the funnel. There's so many different considerations to think about in terms of what you're creating at what point. If you're looking for new clients, then reels might be the way to go to try and get people to notice your page a bit more. So yeah, there's so many different considerations to what you do at what point, but it all has to fit into a strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that perfectly leads into, we didn't even plan that, but that perfectly leads into the next thing, because you were talking about goals. And I think with social media in general, it can be a little bit of a throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks situation. So what is working right now when it comes to having a strategy for Instagram?
Well, I think, and I tell my clients this, that we need to establish goals in terms of like your brand awareness, lead generation, your engagement rate, and your follower growth. And by follower growth, I appreciate I might be contradicting myself, but in terms of you're not like losing a load of followers, but you're having a steady increase, which is just showing that your page is doing well, and not sort of like these thousands per week type of situations. But obviously your brand awareness is so many different things in terms of how you speak, what you stand for, what your values are, your branding as well, how you write, what you're trying to sell and things like that. So that's really important to get out there. Lead generation is important because again, we're here for businesses. You speak to, if you listen to quite a lot of experts, they think that like outreach engagement doesn't really work, but in my opinion it does, but it's a long game. Like you said, you've made conversation with people and you've got business through that. If your intention is to go out and say, I'm going to get 10 new leads today and I want them to buy from me by next week, that's not going to happen. You need to think about it in the long game and think, I'm going to make friends with these people, talk to them, but genuinely, there's no reason to be going out there and kind of just wanting to think of people as clients. Genuinely sort of making these connections, and people buy from you eventually because of brand awareness, because of that lead generation. For example, I had a client come to me recently and we've been talking in the DMs for about 6 months, and it's about dogs, about anything, just sort of like passing the time of day. And then eventually she needed some help with her Instagram. There was never any intention of either of us that we wanted to sell to each other, but she said, I need some help with my Instagram. I trust you, I know you, and I'd like you to help me with it. And that is the know, like and trust factor, which we all bang on about quite a lot, because it is really key. And yeah, you do need to think of it in the long game.
I completely agree. And I think you said a really good, so many good things in there about setting goals as well, because it's about knowing what are the goals. And you mentioned the potential client that was like, get me to 10,000. It's like, okay, that we're looking at the wrong goal. Maybe that's like the wrong goal, because you could just buy 10,000 followers if you really want. It's not going to help you.
No, it's really not. And they're awful tactics. I could go on about those all day.
Absolutely. So once they've got a strategy, once they've planned out what they actually want to achieve, and they've looked at their sort of, I know you talk about having some pillars as well, like content pillars, knowing what you want to talk about. What is working right now on Instagram? So we talk about, and the reason I think it's really important to hone in on is we hear a lot about consistency. And I've had clients, God love them, who they're like, I'm posting 4 or 5 times a week, I'm consistent, I'm showing out, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And they're just not getting the traction. Something's disconnected. And I think certainly it could be to do with things that you've mentioned, the strategy, not knowing, maybe being very clear about what it is they're doing and all that sort of stuff. But in terms of what Instagram likes and what Instagram wants, what's working right now to help people?
Well, there's 2 different chains of thought in there, because I'll just explain to you, if I went to your page, not yours, but anybody's page, and you asked me to look at it, and I had this quite recently, someone DM'd me and said they were working on a page and it wasn't working, and could they give me a little bit of advice? Straight away I saw that there was no personality in that page. I couldn't see, it looked like a notice board, in a very nice notice board. It looked like lovely graphics, nice captions, but they weren't giving me any reason to engage with them. There wasn't any calls to action there. There wasn't any reason for me to say, oh, this is really interesting. There wasn't any storytelling and things like that. So in terms of what people want to relate to you is one thing. and they want to know that you could be a person that they work with. So looking at someone's page and it's all business and I know nothing about you, that isn't going to work for me. And I definitely feel like you need to put, you don't have to give your whole personal life, but like your story, your background, your sort of like your personality should definitely be in your page. In terms of the algorithm, they're sort of there's no metric that is better than another. So like likes, saves, shares, they're all equal to each other. There's been a lot of talk of like saves being better than anything else. I like a save because I feel like I can understand that my audience likes what I'm talking about. But yeah, like giving value is really important as well as the storytelling. So offering quick wins. So I can give you a quick tip, like on Canva, for example, which is one of my topics that I talk about. People love those because they're like, oh, that's like something they can implement really quickly. They can just jump on Canva and have a little look. There's so many things that you could consider. Carousels work really well. That, as I say, short videos and reels are what is working. But in terms of the algorithm, it's a computer. We can't understand it all. Some posts aren't going to do as well as others. And that shouldn't always be your goal for a post to do really well, because it's there's lots of different considerations to be put in, and as I said before, it depends on your strategy. So for example, one post might be that you get to learn a little bit more about me, another post might be that I'm selling to you, and the selling posts on the whole aren't going to do as well as the getting to know you post, because people are going to have more to engage with. But you do need to sell your products because you're a business. So having that 80-20 split of giving value, sort of educating, inspiring, and then 20% you're promoting and remembering your business is really important as well. So I try not to worry too much about what the algorithm wants from us, but putting out a good page, a good selection of learning about people, learning about their services, what they do, and educating is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, is there, and again, this is a question, I have my own opinion on the answer, but I'd be curious from your perspective, is there a holy grail on how many times you should be posting to Instagram per week?
No, it's what works for you. I wouldn't say to do it any less than twice a week. So like 3 times a week, and a mixture of video content, carousels and things like that. I mean, yeah, there is schools of thought that you could post 5 times a week, but if that doesn't suit you and that's not going to work for you every week, don't do that, because it's just going to drain you and you're going to run out of ideas. So yeah, having more of a consistency, more of sort of like a plan ahead approach, and not worrying too much about what other people are doing and saying, but thinking about what works for you in your business.
I agree. I think that's it, because, you know, I love watching people like Brendan Burchard and Gary Vee sometimes, but I'm just like, oh man, like 4 times a day, not a chance, love. Like, it's not going to happen. 4 times a day, every day, no.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I
don't have a team of 10 people to crop content and follow me around with a video camera my entire life.
I know it is. It's like I'm always saying that people should show up on stories, but realistically, life gets in the way. I don't always show up on stories myself. I've got things going. I've got 3 children. We do what we can do, and we need to stay consistent and think about the different phases in our business, and not worry too much about what everyone tells you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen to that. And I think the consistency is the key thing, because, you know, certainly on my grid, there are 3 or 4 posts a week which are always scheduled and planned, and they go out, and podcast sharing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that gives me that breathing space. If my brain that week is just like, I have nothing to share that is of any value or use to this week because I'm just up against it, or you're busy with clients, you're like, that's okay. I know I haven't fallen off the planet. There's still content going out there. There's still useful things going out there. And it just gives you that sort of breathing space, doesn't it? Rather than like, oh my God, what am I going to post today?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously that's all part of having a strategy and having your content planned in advance, which I always advise about. But yeah, some weeks are going to be like that. You're going to have a lack of inspiration and things like that. And that's okay. You just, it's
life, isn't it? That's when you'll see me on stories going, well, coffee. That's all I'm managing this week. That is the total of it. Now, you are like super duper positive, so we're not going to be negative about things that, you know, other people are advising, but let's just talk about the things that do not work on Instagram that are still being bandied about out there. So what are the things that people really don't want to be doing or wasting their time and money on?
Engagement pods. I mean, I probably get invitations to those a couple of times a week, and just it's such a waste of your time. I've never done one. I do not promote that being involved in them, because you're going to be spending your time engaging with people that aren't in your niche, that you've been told to go and engage with. I believe that's how it works. The Instagram algorithm knows what you're doing, and you do risk getting a ban, and it's just a complete waste of your time. Whereas you could be engaging with people that are genuinely interested in what you're doing, and that would be a better focus of your time. Engagement pods, really, no, they are against the community guidelines, but they're also, it's a way of getting metrics that are vanity, and it's just not important, and I don't advise doing anything like that. But also the follow unfollow method, so where people will follow people, a load of people, and with almost the hope that they follow them back, and then they will unfollow them, because then they've got their followers up and the ratio's better. People know you're doing it. It's embarrassing. It just no.
I had a flurry. I said to you off before we hit record, I had a flurry of followers, and I was like, okay, these are totally different kind of people. This is very interesting. And I go through and remove followers, do a little bit of a cull every week. But I didn't even need to do that, because I was like, nope, you followed and I didn't follow you back because you're random. And then goodbye. They were gone. And I was like, why do people still do this? It's just crazy. It's such a waste of time.
I know. And I think that is something that's like a bit old school as well, that people do think that followers are equal to a successful business. And you do hear an awful lot about, how I grew my account to 10,000 and things like that. I mean, that is great for them, but they're not posting their bank balances and things like that. I don't want to see that either, but it's we've just got to be realistic that we're not influencers. We're there to run a business, and follower account isn't important as a steady growth. There was an account that I witnessed recently, and they had quite a small amount of a following, and they were getting 700 likes on their post, which was an obvious buying of bots. And it's so obvious to people, and it's just completely ridiculous thing to do, but I don't understand why people do it. So the reverse is also the case, of where somebody's got like 10,000 followers, that they've got like 5 likes on their post. So then it's really obvious that they've bought those followers. So just be genuine, be organic growth, and authentic, and it will work. It just takes time.
I think it's a really good point, that other one, because I find I always question when I see someone with a large following, and there was someone recently, but I think it's 27,000, they started following me, and I had a look at their page, and I was like, oh, their content looks nice, but they had maybe one comment, and I was thinking, right, have you and I scrolled down, I was like, you must have changed niche, you must have changed business or something, maybe you had this massive following from something else. And I was like, and I have to say, in that instance, I didn't see any particular change, but that can also be a reason, can't it?
Absolutely. People do change niches quite a bit, so you do see that people like clear off their page and start again and do something else. So there is that to consider, and I do ask that question when I'm taking on clients and things like that, and see if anything's changed. But if it's a you can usually tell.
You can. And anything else to be avoiding that's just not working anymore?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. It's the main sort of like shady tactics that like just genuine growth is more important than the vanity metrics, which people think are more important. So
for sure. And I think you know, the one thing I would say to people as well is that this happened to me the other day, and you mentioned it, you touched on it earlier, is that genuine conversation with people. Have a genuine conversation.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
drives me crackers. I had a couple of people reach out recently, and you could just tell they popped my name in and then copied and pasted a thing, and it was something really cheesy like, how do you think up your content ideas? I'm like, oh, delete. I can't even.
How long have you been in business? Yeah, it's all that kind of a thing.
I'm like, I'm sorry, if you're not just going to ask me like a normal human being question, or just say, hey love, nice to follow you, you know, have a good day. I'm like, that will get me into a conversation more than love your content, blah blah blah, how do you think these ideas? I'm like, yeah, nope.
Exactly. It is you just like, you wouldn't go up to someone in a street and like behave that way. It's just making conversation in a sort of a human way. It's just what you need to be thinking about.
Yeah, for sure. Just be human. It's so strange, isn't it? It's like exactly like you said, if you met someone in person, one of the biggest things I say to my clients, and one of the biggest things I value the most when it comes to being online, is that I would hate for someone to see my online profile, see me online, and then meet me in person and go, oh, you're completely different.
Yeah,
I'd be mortified. Like,
yeah,
they need to know I'm just as like crazy or as, you know, how I am. I don't look any different in person. I'm just exactly the same as I am on Instagram as I am in person.
No, absolutely, that's it. And it's I mean, I've met such genuine friends over Instagram as well. I've also met you through Instagram as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's a really nice place to be. It's really positive. And there are some sort of like shady tactics going on, but just being you is really important.
Absolutely. So we talked about engagement a lot. We've used the word engagement. Can you really clarify, because again, it's one of those things that gets banded around. Can you clarify what we're meaning by when we're talking about engagement, and some of the do's and don'ts to increase the engagement on your page?
So engagement basically means, so your engagement rate is how many reactions and to your content divided by your followers. So having a good engagement rate is just kind of assessing how interested people are in your content, which overall content is king, and that's what everyone says. No one's going to be drawn to your page unless the content is on point. So engagement comes runner up to the content. But ways of increasing your engagement on your posts are replying to lots of comments. Like, so if anyone replies to your leaves a comment, respond to it using polls in stories and things like that. But also engaging back, so engaging in your feed before and after you're posting, spending a little bit of time on your feed, doing genuine engagement, not just expecting people to turn up at your page and want to buy from you, because you do have to put the work in. And there's, by using stories and using the things that Instagram give to you basically within stories, but also, as I say, reciprocating comments that people leave on your posts and things like that, but just being a genuine human like you would.
So that's engagement. So is there any mistakes that you see people making when it comes to engagement? I suppose, is it sort of just the opposite of what you've just said, or is there anything that you're seeing people make those mistakes?
Yeah, so people would like post and ghost. So turn that they just post and expect people to engage with them and just move away from the platform. You do need to spend a bit of time on that, and it is time consuming, and I appreciate that. But if there's a way that you can sort of factor that into your day a little bit, sort of 10 minutes here, there, responding to your DMs as well, and building those conversations and responding to other people's stories. So yeah, it's just turning up and doing your bit rather than just expecting things to come your way.
And that's just, and this isn't something we sort of discussed before, but it's made me think there's so many, and especially with my following, we were discussing this before, I have a very small following, but I feel like I know most of them really, really well. So there's, you know, I've got maybe hundreds of people that I would love to just chat with every day. How do you advise your clients how to manage that? Because there are, like I said, in my situation, obviously if you've got thousands and thousands, I don't know how you do it, but for me, I have that privilege of a smaller following where I do have a lot of conversations. How do you help your clients make sure that they're kind of not missing people? You know, like you start these conversations, you get to know them, and then you're like, oh man, and then you see their story and you're like, oh, I haven't spoken to them in ages. How do you manage keeping in touch with all the amazing people that you have following you?
So lead tracking is what I advise to do and what we do for my clients. So again, this is approaching people as if they're clients rather than them being necessarily genuine connections. I appreciate, but if you are thinking that somebody might be a good fit for one of your offers down the line a little bit, then put them on a lead tracker, state whether they're sort of like what offer you think that they might be interested in, then like put down a note when you last engaged with them, think about going back and engaging with them a little bit as well. Again, it's not something that you're thinking, right, tomorrow I'm going to go in there with a big sell. It's just thinking down the line, this might really work for them, this might help them, and flipping your point of view to thinking that this is going to help them rather than, right, I'm going to get a sale at this person. And you've had those conversations geared towards it. So definitely, I mean, and going through your followers every now and again and just seeing if there's people that you haven't engaged with recently. So if you go to your following and go to toggle to the least interacted with, you can have a little look through there and see if there's people that maybe you can unfollow because you haven't engaged back with each other for a certain amount of time, and you possibly won't in the future. Or go ahead and engage with them and think, oh, I haven't spoken to them for a while. But yeah, often people look to the outside when looking within is where your warm audiences are.
Yeah.
But also trying to get them on your mailing list is really important. Having people on your email list is really key to, then that they're your warm leads.
I think that's a really good point you've just made then, actually, because I do know of through a friend, someone's account, they had over 22,000, they built it up and someone had, I don't know the full story, but basically it's got shut down. Instagram shut down through no fault of their own. So all of a sudden this amazing following, they've got to start again. These platforms are free platforms that we're just using, so they're not our businesses. They could shut tomorrow if they wanted to. So I think it's such an important point to get them on your email list, because then you have them in your business, so it's such an important thing, because we need to take them from that platform to somewhere within our own businesses as well.
Yeah, no, completely. And that's why it's really key to have a funnel. But it's we do have to remember that we're using a free app for our business, and it is just a tool. It's not your business. So it is a key differentiation, because ultimately Instagram don't owe you anything, and they could take it away and any point. So trying to have that lead tracking where you've got the information, as well as having, ideally on your email list, but having them in a separate place as well. So you're making those conversations, but just being aware that it could happen at any point.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know I saw you on your story once, you said, do people want a lead tracker or do they want this? And my lead tracker is just an Excel spreadsheet. It is that's it.
That's absolutely fine, as long as you know what's going on with it. That's the main thing.
So I think that's just really important to put, if people are thinking, oh my God, what's a lead tracker? How do I find that? If they go off to Googling lead tracker, it can just be a Google Doc or an Excel spreadsheet or something very simple.
Yeah, absolutely. You can do it in anything as well. I use ClickUp for some and Google Drive for others.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been so good. Is there anything, there's so many things we could talk about in regards to today. Is there anything that you feel that we haven't covered that you really want to make sure people are aware of when it comes to Instagram at the moment?
I think that being aware of how the algorithm works is that if you post and people don't engage with that post, Instagram's not going to push it out further. So being aware that having a larger unengaged audience, which might affect how your post performs, is not ideal. So like you said, when you get people that aren't ideal followers coming in, thinking about removing them, because the more people that engage with your post in the first instance, Instagram will push it out more. But it is a consideration to kind of remove followers a little bit at a time. Do not do it really quickly, because that will put you on the naughty step and you could get shadow banned and you could get like your account deleted. So very small, but
what are we talking? I can just imagine people going, oh my God, what is very small? Like, what are we talking? Because this is quite an interesting one of actually removing followers. You know, this might be a bit of a new concept to some people. I know it's something we've been doing for a long time, but actually the idea of, oh my God, what, removing followers? I've just worked so hard to get these extra 20 people or something. So when you're talking about removing followers, can you just dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah, of course. So you've having just a little look at your following list and seeing if any of these people have engaged with your content, seeing what kind of business that they're in. Are they your ideal client? If they're not, consider removing them. Again, I mean, I go to extremes on my limits. I wouldn't do more than 10 a day, but I think it is a little bit higher. But again, I wouldn't remove more than 10 a day, because the slower the better, in my opinion. But just having a little look through sort of every couple of days and just seeing, no, they're not my ideal client. They don't need to be following me. They're never going to purchase from me, which is, I agree, is harsh, but just removing them off. But being mindful of the fact that it is because your posts won't get shown to a wider audience of who you want to see it. Because if it's shown to them and they don't engage, then it's not going to be achieving what it could be achieving.
Yeah, amazing. No, that's really cool. Thank you. I kind of interrupted you there. So if there was anything else that you wanted to share on the algorithm side of things, please do. No. I just know that people might be listening going, remove followers? Is she
If anyone wants to ask my advice, then they can find me and pop a DM. So yeah, it is a bit alien to people sometimes thinking, oh, I've got to remove people now, but you don't have to do it all of a sudden. But it's just, if your posts aren't performing well, that is something to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just good to keep it hygiened as well, because the engagement does go up. I know years ago when I first came across this concept, I was a bit nervous about it, but it does make such a difference. And you also realize you have some real randoms in there.
Yeah, I did. I mentioned to you before we pressed record that I had a reel that went, I think it got around about 65,000 views recently over the weekend. And over the weekend, I had something like 300 followers. Which I need to go through now, and I will eventually. I was just letting it calm down and to remove, because they're not targeted. And I want to keep it sort of like a targeted audience.
And it's so important. And I think that's a really good example, isn't it? That reels can be really, really powerful, really powerful. But then you do need to just do a bit of hygiening just to make sure that you haven't had this massive bump in followers, and actually that, you know, you want to make sure that they're the right people.
Yeah, because when we talk about Instagram growth, a lot of people who talk about Instagram growth, their audience is wide, because they're practically attracting everybody on Instagram. Whereas you and I, we've got a more niche, smaller, sort of like targeted audience, where all of these people aren't going to be interested in what we're saying because it's not targeted at them. So when they're growing quickly, that's great for them, because what they're talking is to the many, whereas we're talking to the few. So it's got to be a little bit more mindful of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. Do you know, I'm going to throw in one last final question before we end, because this is another thing that I just know my audience are going to ask. Instagram bios.
Yeah.
You mentioned, and I think this is on while we were actually recording, but you mentioned about, you know, looking at pages and you're just like, there's no personality, it's bland. Do you have a formula, or is there anything you generally advise your clients to look at when they're writing their Instagram bio? Because there's so few characters to be able to actually put in there.
Yeah, it's like 150, I think, isn't it? No, I am using I help statements, and calling out who you actually help is key, and with what services. So try and be as direct as you can, but also having a link of somewhere that you send them. So you need a call to action in there. People are inherently lazy. They want you to tell them what to do, and quickly. So click on this link, DM me to get started, that kind of a thing. But I help, I think mine says virtual assistants and coaches with strategy and done for you services, that kind of a thing. So just be really specific, and try and obviously keep it short and sweet, but definitely have a call to action in there.
Yeah.
And probably get rid of emojis if you don't need them. I did that in the past.
I'm obsessed with an emoji. I mean, I think I express everything in an emoji.
Me too. I definitely do, but probably not in bio. We haven't got enough space.
I've had that so many times. I'm like, oh, I have to remove that emoji, otherwise I can't fit in that word.
Yeah.
Amazing. This has been so useful. Definitely want to bookmark my lovelies and listen back to as many times as you need, and do reach out to Jacy, because all her details will be in the show notes. She practices what she preaches. Honestly, genuinely, I think I've probably saved more of your posts than anyone else did. So I'm like, oh, I must get round to that, or I must send that to my assistant, because that's really cool. Like you talk about Canva, you've shared so many things about Canva. I'm like, okay, amazing. I must let my assistant know about that. Because
who doesn't love Canva?
Oh, exactly. I mean, I don't want to spend any time on it, but I do love it.
Claire.
Yeah, exactly. Not me. No, but thank you so much. It's been so useful, and it's really nice to debunk some of the things that are not really working, and giving people a little bit more, hopefully a bit more breathing space, because I really think social media as a whole can become massively overwhelming.
It can, and we get comparisonitis from it an awful lot, and I mean I still do as well. I look and think, oh, but it's you've got to just be mindful that you're there to serve a purpose. You don't need to stay on there all day like looking at other people and comparing. Just do you, be you, and it will shine out. So and try not to take it too seriously is my kind of final word on it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I will get around to doing a reel eventually. I will.
Yeah, I want to see it. Thank you for having me, Heather. It's been lovely.
It's been a blast. Thank you so much, my love.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Focused and Fearless podcast. If you'd like to continue the conversation or have a question that you would like answered in an upcoming episode, head over to Instagram and connect with me at Heather Angel Coaching. If you enjoy this podcast, please share your thoughts in a review on iTunes. I truly value your feedback, and I take the time to read every single review. Have a beautiful week, and I'll see you in the next episode.